Debates are limited time strategic games where you are tasked with creating the strongest possible position so that you're likely to come out on top. Now, time is the key factor here. If we wanted to get at the truth of an issue, we could spend months or years looking into it, get into all the minutiae, leave no stone unturned. But in a debate, you don't have that luxury. You often have a few minutes to an hour at most, so you need to focus on quality and cut the fat. In this video, we're going to talk about the subset of arguments you'll encounter in a debate, refutation. Refutations are arguments that you make in response to your opponent's position. So they're very key players in winning the overall discussion. I'm going to give you 4 principles of designing effective refutation that I hope you can use to success in your next debate or argument. What are those 4 principles? Well, they're outlined right here. Prioritization, offense, defense, link differential, and opportunity costs. Prioritization, what do you choose to respond to? Offense, defense, I've made a response. What does it do for me in the broader strategic discussion of the debate? Link differential, my opponent has a claim, I have a claim. How do you evaluate them? How do you make sure that your claim is the strongest? An opportunity cost, my opponent has advanced a position, but every action we take has a cost, and how can I leverage that to frame the discussion in my favor? We're going to talk about all of this and more. My personal favorite is link differential. Let's dive into it. Prioritization, or the art of what to respond to. When you're in a debate, there are going to be a lot of arguments. Some make important claims that you need to respond to. Others you can basically completely ignore. In this video, for each category of refutation, we're going to be working with this example argument, that the United States should create substantial regulations for AI. Your opponent, when making this argument, might make a variety of claims. They could say that AI is developing really quickly. They could say we're not prepared for securing AI and preventing it from escaping and becoming sentient. They could talk about how regulations are important, etc. The job of effective refutation is to cut through the noise and figure out what gives you the most bang for your buck in response. So a well-formed argument, as we discussed in the previous video, usually has about 3 parts: a problem statement, a solution, and an impact. Problem: AI is developing out of control and needs to be contained. Solution: we're going to regulate it, that will slow it down and make it safe. Impact: we don't want the Terminator to happen with AI ruining our lives and social fabric with things like deepfakes. When you're refuting an argument, it is very helpful if you can find out a way to make one of these steps disappear. What do I mean by that? Let's say they don't have a problem. Now their argument is that, well, we should regulate AI because the Terminator might happen. But they've given us no indication that it's even likely. If AI doesn't exist, or if AI is not developing, or the technology is really bad, it's really unfeasible why their impact would ever come to pass. For instance, every country in the world could get together right now and sign a treaty. None of us will build a Death Star. That's awesome. We're safe from the Death Star. Unfortunately, that was a big waste of time because we're nowhere near development of such technology. So if you don't have a problem that you're trying to solve in your argument, or you can disprove that they have a problem, all of a sudden their argument basically has no legs. What if you make the solution disappear? If they have no solution, congratulations, they have described the inevitable course of the universe that we are all doomed to. AI is developing out of control, and that's really unfortunate because it's going to ruin our lives. If you don't have a solution for it, you have defanged their argument. If regulations fail, then they really have nothing to offer. This is a lot like when your teacher in 4th grade tells you that eventually the sun is going to explode. Oh no, that's a big problem with a big impact, but oh no, anyway, because you can't do anything about it. So if you can't do anything about a problem, then why would you use their solution if it's ineffective or just leaves us in the position we started? Let's make the impact disappear. AI is developing really quickly. We could regulate it, but actually AI doesn't really do anything. So there's no need to act here. If there's no impact or no reason we should be concerned about their problem, then why take a big action? So where does this leave us? Prioritize the weakest links in their fundamental argument chain. The 3 steps they need for any successful argument are problem, solution, and impact. And it's likely that one is a lot weaker than the others. So you shouldn't prioritize making an equivalent amount of responses to every single thing they've said. Instead, identify weak points, exploit, and all of a sudden you disprove any of those 1 categories, they have no argument. Offense, defense. the two types of responses, and what do these responses do for you in a debate. So we've talked about what to attack. Now we're going to give you a framework for how to attack it and what do those arguments do. I'm going to outline two types of arguments you can make in response to the solution that we discussed. Recall that the solution is that AI regulations just introduce oversight and safety. We're going to go over two ways you can respond to this and show how they lead to different outcomes and how you can utilize both. The first response we're making is that old senators don't get technology, so regulations will have won't have teeth and will have many loopholes. This response is essentially saying that their position is overstated. It is not going to be as effective as they claim it to be because regulations just aren't well designed. You can think about tax loopholes, about how the government doesn't always do a great job of enforcing certain regulations, about how businesses aren't deterred by fines. There are a lot of ways you can think about this response. And the point is that, the government is not a one-size-fits-all solution, so maybe we should have less confidence that their solution is going to be as effective. In the hypothetical whiteboard of who's ahead in a debate, how does this response change things? Well, before we made the response, they presented us with their argument, and, it was plausible. They justified it well. So there was a good case that they made things about 50% safer or better for the world of AI. Now that we've responded that regulations aren't always super effective and there are good reasons that they're overstated, they're still in the green. Our opponent has still made an argument that helps us, but it's really been diminished. They're now about 25% better instead of 50% better. So that's the effect of this first response. And now we're going to go into a second, similar, but different type of response. This time our response is that if we regulate AI in the United States, it's going to shift to AI havens, like tax havens, with even more dangerous laws that will be even more out of control. Maybe it's really easy to move technology around, and this poses an even greater risk. Let's go back to that hypothetical whiteboard of the progress of the debate and who's winning and what it looks like. Well, initially, our opponent had an argument that was 50% better, but now instead of diminishing the size of their argument, we've introduced a parallel reason why they actually make us less safe. So, regulations might make things 50% better in the United States, but from the perspective of the whole world, we're 25% worse off too, because these AI havens are going to pop up where people are even more ravenous and dangerous and developing ChatGPT 8.0, which is, maybe the scariest and most dangerous application ever released. This is the offense-defense distinction. The first argument we made is classified as defense. We reduced the strength of their position from 25% to 50%, and we just showed that their initial position is overstated or not as effective as they claim it to be. Offense shows how your position, i.e. that we should not regulate AI, actually makes things better, or taking their position makes us worse off. Those regulations would make things worse. So offense and defense are the two foundational pieces of any argument. Any argument is either offense or defense. Sometimes it's elements of both. And both serve different ends. For instance, if you were to go all in on defense, your opponent could end up with an argument that proves, we're 5% safer from regulating AI, so we might as well do it. If you go all in on offense, trying to show, regulations are super, super bad, I have unfortunate news. It's a little bit harder to craft good offense, so a lot of the arguments you're going to start making are pretty bad. Usually, quality trumps quality in the offense-defense distinction. There are a lot of great opportunities for really strong defensive arguments that will do significant legwork in minimizing the strength of your opponent's position, and you should take those. Offense, you will not get as often, but every opportunity for offense that is quality and sort of meets a good threshold, hey, this is worth my time, you should put it on the board as well, because it helps you win, not just show that their idea isn't as good as you thought it was. Link differential, when two sides are right at the same time. We already saw a hint of this. We discussed how safety regulations might make things safer in the United States, but more dangerous abroad. What do you do in a debate when both sides are right? How do you resolve that? How do you compare that? How do you show that your position is the better one? Well, I call it winning the gap. Recall that the first argument was safety is effective, and the second argument is that AI will be offshored. In this diagram, the solution to regulate AI still makes us net safer, but there's a gap that's established. Yes, It is true that it's safer in the United States, and that might make things net safer globally, but it's also a little bit more dangerous because of those AI havens. What is the net effect of global AI safety? Well, probably 25% better off. If you measure and focus on this gap, that is the link differential. In any argument, you can have compelling reasons for why your opponent makes things better and compelling reasons for why they make things worse. Oftentimes, those reasons are under the same broad umbrella, i.e., does a safety regulation work? A safety regulation might make us more safe in some ways and less safe in other ways. And confounding, both can have truth in them at the same time. So if you want to win a debate, you need to be armed with the tools to show why this difference between the size of these two competing forces flows in your favor. What are some tools you can use to show why your argument will have the stronger net effect, and in our case, show why these regulations would make us worse off? Well, here they are. When you are trying to determine who has the stronger link, you can consider using a few weighing strategies. How many people are affected? i.e., is it just a few people or the whole country or whole world? To what severity is the problem? Maybe these regulations have really, really strong enforcement and the offshore havens are, relatively small and won't get much traction. So it's not a very severe argument to make in opposition. How permanent? Maybe these offshore havens will be temporary and they could be squashed down with more global treaties and enforcement of AI safety. What's the time frame? Maybe AI will be more dangerous in 20 years, but there's a compelling reason for why we want some freedom with AI right now. Are there alternative solutions or factors? Maybe a new technology will help safeguard and regulate AI such that, the disadvantage of choosing to regulate right now is worse. And what's the probability of certain things coming to pass? If your opponent's argument is very improbable and yours is very probable, despite the different magnitudes, it could be the case that you've ultimately won the debate. I really just sort of went through these without too much depth because I don't think it's a useful exercise to go in detail about how they apply to these current two arguments we have on the board about regulations working and regulations creating offshore havens. Really, though, these are just good starting points, good brainstorming points for when you have two competing arguments resolving which one has the greater effect. Opportunity cost, or the cost of action. So we've made arguments, we've made responses, our debate's gone on for a few minutes now, and we have found ourselves in a troubling position. Oh no, our opponents, after all of the deliberation back and forth, it seems likely that their regulations will make us 1% more safe. So congratulations, they've won the debate by the narrowest of margins, but they've won. Unless you consider opportunity cost. In the real world, every action has a cost associated with it. For instance, they said that the United States should substantially regulate AI. What does that involve? It involves the Senate and House passing a bill. It involves tax money being levied and spent on enforcement. It involves a whole host of oversight programs. It involves many work hours, etc. So every action you take has a cost. There are resources spent on it. If your position ultimately is insignificant, it may not be worth getting over the inertia and costs associated with it in the first place. So opportunity costs. What things are opportunity costs? Broadly, scarce resources and alternatives have been excluded by choosing a certain course of action. Resources are scarce, such as money, work hours, attention, time, and more. Maybe the Senate could have gone on vacation and played golf instead of passing the bill. And since their plan is so insignificant, that may have made the whole world better off. Who knows? And then finally, there's alternative exclusion. When you make a decision to do something, you're inherently ruling out the other options. A great metaphor about this is a place to go for dinner. If you choose to go to dinner to In-N-Out, then you could have gone to Taco Bell. And some people really like Taco Bell and would have actually preferred that. So you're net worse off choosing a bad action if it excludes something that would have made you better off. So opportunity cost is a useful weighing framework or lens to look at a debate, and it can be utilized when your opponent has a more small-scale position that just might not be worth the effort, or if there is some alternative that it excludes that, given the diminished nature of your opponent's argument, might be more worth it to approach. So thank you. I hope that this was helpful and productive and that you have a new way of thinking about refutation. Please use your skills responsibly. With great power comes great responsibility. And yeah, this was the second video on my channel, so I really appreciate that you all tuned in. Let me know if there's anything else in the realm of arguments that you think would be interesting to cover. I've tried to cover the biggest bang for your buck in these two videos, but there's a lot more about the minutia we could go into. And yeah, thanks for watching and enjoy the rest of your day. See ya.